Have you ever realized what it is to have a roof over your head? Today in Deconstruct, I'll talk about those people who are in such a precarious condition during monsoon because they have no idea when the ground beneath their feet will be snatched and the roof over their heads will collapse. So there are as many as 4 different categories of buildings that the BMC identifies as dangerous structures. C1 category is called dilapidated. It needs to be vacated immediately and demolished. C2A requires major repairs, needs to be vacated for the same. C2B building requires structural repairs, also need to be vacated. C3 building requires minor repairs. So this is the categorization. Let's look at the C1 buildings because that is the most dangerous, most unsafe category of buildings. Figures have improved over the years. 2019-2020, 499 such buildings were there in Mumbai, came down to 407 to 332 last year, and now the figure stands at 226. But if you look at the numbers really, what has happened over the years, you will see that 489 buildings were identified as C1 earlier by the BMC. 252 buildings have been demolished by the BMC. 97 buildings against which action will be taken this year in 2023. 21 buildings subsequently declared repairable, and 110 cases are pending in court. 9 cases are pending before the Technical Advisory Committee or TAC. So many of these buildings simply go into litigation because the tenants refuse to vacate the space. Well, because they do not have an option. So where is the complexity in this particular case? Let me explain it to you. So I have based this report on information that was published in the Indian Express a couple of weeks ago. And this report says that a ward officer of the BMC under the Mumbai Municipal Act is authorized to declare a building dilapidated or C1 category. Following such a declaration or such a notice, within 15 days, the building has to be vacated and demolished. Now, does that process go through smoothly? Clearly not, because what happens is there are often objections raised. If an objection is not raised, it's simple. Within 8 days, the electricity and water supply is cut off. Following that, the BMC is free to demolish the structure. But when objections are raised, another audit is ordered, which is done again by an empaneled committee of the BMC. If the 2 audit reports, one by the ward officer and the empaneled committee, do not have discrepancies, then the process can go ahead. But if there are anomalies there, it goes again to a Technical Advisory Committee or TAC. And as I mentioned earlier, as of today, 9 such cases are pending before the TAC. So that is one part of the complexity, that people choose to fight for their space even when they know it's a dangerous structure. The other important aspect here is usually it's the non-cessed buildings that get categorized in C1 category. And what are cessed or non-cessed buildings? Well, cessed buildings are those that are maintained by MHADA or Maharashtra Housing and Area Development Authority. And the non-cessed buildings are simply owned by landlords who lease it out to tenants. Now here one must remember that there is something called the Pagdi system. Believe it or not, there is a capped rent which ranges only between 100 to 500 rupees per month for the tenants. Tenancy laws usually are in favor of the tenants over the landlords, and there again, it's a uphill task for the landlords to vacate the tenants as well. So what happens typically is that when a structural audit is done and a building is declared dilapidated, the tenants tend to fight the case. The landlords are only too eager to vacate the tenants because of the low rents that they are getting and because of the lure of the developers who time and again approach these landlords to hand over their properties to them. So there is a nexus that also exists between the landlords and the big builders, owing to which the landlords do not do the repairs that they are supposed to do. Because remember, like I said, for non-cessed buildings, maintenance becomes the entire responsibility of the landlords, not the Mahada. But then they do not do it deliberately so often enough to ensure that the tenants vacate the space. The tenants object to it, and that just becomes a vicious cycle. Somebody needs to take note of this, and somebody needs to put this out. I have done the job today because I want people to realize that these are the kind of vicious cycle that we as Indians are often caught in. Think about those families who would continue to live in a dangerous structure because they do not have an option of moving out. We have left those people to fend for themselves. Thanks for watching. Deconstruct.